You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
End of the spectrum. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for local news, sports, and weather coverage throughout the day. It's free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, good morning. Welcome into the Tuesday edition of the Gary Harris Show for April 2nd, 2024. I'm kind of glad April Fool's is out of the way. It used to be fun back in the day, pre-social media, when you just kind of come up to somebody and try to catch them with one. But listen, I'm surprised on Twitter, X, Twix, whatever you want to call it, how many people still got away with April Fools. Because like I said, I don't have the time. But there are people, I know you've seen what I'm talking about, Justin, they'll take somebody's verified account and they will make their own graphic. And it does look like, and they'll put something out, and a lot of people got taken in by it. There was one with, I don't know if you saw it, but it was the Hayes Fawcett account from On3, and first of all, the people that caught it even said, oh, good one, Hayes. Well, it wasn't even Hayes. It was somebody who had done the mock-up or the knockoff account, and he did the Caleb Downs is transferring back to Alabama, and it caught traction. I was sitting there thinking, this is amazing, the amount of people who were taken in by it, and then the ones that even realized it was not legit in the message still thought it was Hayes Fawcett. And all you have to do is click on the actual account, see the number of followers, or see the @ You know what I mean? The @ is where but anyway, it was April Fool's, and some people had some fun with it. But welcome into the program. And right off the bat, before we do Alabama Credit Union, our great sponsor for the first hour, a couple of programming notes, because yesterday, sometimes this can be fluid in terms of trying to book guests. Yesterday, Casey Smith had to postpone. He was going to come on today. Our Casey Smith on Golf segment. But then Chris Stewart, voice of the Crimson Tide, I talked with him about being on, and he got back with me, and he was going to come on today in Casey's slot. So I moved Casey till tomorrow. Then Chris texted me this morning and said he had an event with Crimson Tide Sports Network this morning. And so I've pushed him back to Thursday. Casey's on tomorrow. So, but we'll have Chris on from Phoenix, so that'll actually work out better. The team's leaving this afternoon at 3, by the way. So here's our lineup for today. I'll go ahead and tell you. Drew DeArmond's right there in the 9:30 slot, talking ball. Drew DeArmond, Rocket Man from 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville, where he always is. At 10 o'clock, I'm really excited about this guest, Justin Hamner, 2009 Tuscaloosa County High School graduate, and the recent Bassmaster Classic champion, the Super Bowl of bass fishing. If you follow fishing, you know that this is as big as it gets on the Bassmaster Elite Series, the Bassmaster Classic out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Justin won that a couple of weeks ago. $300,000 first place prize. Not to mention that, all of the endorsements, all that goes with that. I'm sure it's worth $1 million or so. This is a young man. I think he's just turned 33. And, 5 years ago, he was running a lawn service, laying concrete, doing what he had to do to try to finance his professional bass fishing career. He made it to the Elite Series, and now Justin, he's had a life-changing win. That's and there's the fishing industry is a huge industry. Just go to a Bass Pro Shops if you don't believe me. And he's going to be on with us at 10 o'clock. So looking forward to that conversation to kind of track his career in bass fishing and the sacrifices that his wife and daughter had to make for him to pursue this dream. And now the dream has turned into, something tangible. Once you're a Bassmaster Classic champion in that industry, it's like winning the U.S. Open in golf or tennis or the Masters. It's like winning the Super Bowl in football. It's like making it to the Final Four in basketball, winning the NBA Finals in professional basketball, the World Series in baseball. It's as big as it gets. So looking forward to that conversation, something a little bit different. So like I said, I had to kind of change up the show a little bit today because, people having to postpone and so forth, but we will have Chris Stewart from Phoenix on Thursday morning. So we'll look forward to that. All right, this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you as always by Alabama Credit Union, member-owned and not-for-profit. It really is just a better way of banking. I encourage you to find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com. Membership certainly is a lot different at Alabama Credit Union than it is just being a customer at a bank. Culture creates community. Find out more at alabamacu.com. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money and put a little extra change in your pocket. Again, as I said, Drew DeArmond at 9:30, Justin Hamner at 10 o'clock. Your phone calls are welcome here in this first hour on the First and Main Condominiums hotline at 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904 is the number. All right, Justin, let's go ahead and hit them up with some, how about we hit them up with some, hang on, I'm pulling something up here on the computer right now at the moment. Yeah, let's hit them up with some Tuesday morning headlines right here on the Gary Harris Show. Of course, basketball is the buzz here in Tuscaloosa this week, and it was obvious last night at Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. Hey, Coach, the Final Four edition with Nate Oates, Nick Pringle, Ryland Griffin, and Jaron Stevenson, hosted by Chris Stewart. I had a camera out there for WVUA 23. Justin, it looked like a Nick Saban show. And I'm not saying it's not always a good turnout, but it was special last night. Coach Oates took questions, phone calls, did a lot of autograph signing, same thing with the players, and really a great atmosphere last night as basketball is getting ready for something that has never occurred before, and that's an appearance in the national semifinal on Saturday evening against Connecticut, the number one overall seed. Alabama flying out this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Of course, we're going to have coverage all week here on the Gary Harris Show. Well, since head coach Nate Oates arrived at Alabama, he's built a consistent winner, 2 SEC regular season and 2 SEC tournament championships, 4 straight NCAA tournaments, and now a Final Four. On Saturday night, after Alabama beat Clemson, Coach Oates had an interesting comment in regards to the Alabama job and how he knew he could win at the highest level. Quote, "Before I ever took the job, Rick, my agent, and me talked, and he said, look, they've got all the resources you need to be able to win at Alabama. We need to go get this job. I trust him. He knows what he's doing. They do have all the resources you need to win. We put together a few good teams. You just need to keep knocking on the door. Last year, overall number 1 seed, we should have been in the Final Four. Doesn't work that way. The best team doesn't always win because it's a 1-game elimination tournament," unquote. Now, what I like so much about that comment, it speaks to what I've been talking about. You just got to keep knocking on the door. You can't count on, although it does sometimes happen, do teams catch lightning in a bottle? Absolutely. A team gets in that's never really had much of a postseason history, and they make a run. We saw it last year with FAU, all the way to the Final Four. But let's be honest, most of the time, the teams that get to the Final Four are teams that just keep putting themselves in position. And it's hard. Listen, Alabama could have gone in 76. They could have potentially gone in 82, 85, 86, 87, 90, 91. Even that 89 team that lost in the first round of South Alabama, blowing a 16-point halftime lead. That team, I think, would have met Michigan in the next round and could have beat Michigan. Michigan went on to win the national championship that year with Bill Frieder. After Bill Frieder resigned, and who was the interim coach that took over at Michigan? And he actually coached San Diego State after he left Michigan. Michigan, oh Lord, I'm going to stop right now. I hate when I lose my train of thought like that. But Bill Frieder had already announced that he was leaving, and the Michigan athletic director said, "Well, we don't want you coaching our team. We want a Michigan man coaching Michigan." And the assistant took over.
Steve Fisher.
Yeah, Steve Fisher, and led him to the national championship. So, but Alabama that year had a team that I thought matched up beautifully with Michigan. Had they not gotten really rooked, the officiating in that South Alabama game over in Atlanta, I still remember watching that game. It was absolutely brutal. But anyway, Alabama could have gone. The Antonio McDyess teams were really talented. And then obviously Mark Godfrey's team in 2002 was a number 2 seed. 2004, they went to the Elite 8. And then, Coach Oates with the 2021 team with Herb Jones and those guys could have gone. And last year's team, obviously, the number 1 overall seed. So it's hard. It's hard to get there. Purdue hasn't been since 1980 when they had Joe Barry Carroll. Gene Cady was the coach. And NC State hasn't been since 1983 when they won it all with Jim Valvano. And now think about North Carolina State. You're talking about going on a run. They were about to fire Kevin Keats. They were going nowhere fast. They catch lightning in a bottle, win the SEC tournament, playing 5 games in 5 days, and now they've won 4 in a row. It's like I've said, it takes a little bit of luck, but one thing's for sure. Once you get to the Final Four, you're either a really good team or you're playing really well. There are no flukes. You don't fluke your way into a Final Four. So that's just the reality of it. That's just the reality of what it takes. And Alabama's there now. And I think that it won't be the last time. Yeah, I'd like to see Alabama win the national championship this year. But I don't think that if Alabama loses on Saturday, or if they win on Saturday and get to Monday night and lose, this is going to be the last time you see Alabama in the Final Four. Now that that door's been kicked in, I think Nate Oates is the kind of coach that will run the kind of program that is always going to be in contention to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. All right, women's basketball, before we get to their Final Four, Tennessee parted ways with Coach Kelly Harper yesterday after 5 seasons, opting to make a change to try and reinvigorate a program that has not played for a national championship since the late Pat Summitt retired. Now, here's the deal. Tennessee in women's basketball, it's like Alabama in football. It's like North Carolina and Duke in men's basketball. It is like LSU in baseball. It is a program whose expectations are based on history and tradition. And even though they're not meeting those expectations, they want to get back to that because Kelly Harper was a good coach. She won 20 or more games 4 times, but the thing that got her was they never advanced past the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. In fact, as I said, they haven't been to a Final Four since Pat Summitt retired, rest her soul. And so they're making a move there at Tennessee, and Kelly Harper's a good coach. All right, last night, the much-anticipated Elite Eight matchup between LSU and Iowa, rematch of last year's national championship game, and it goes to Iowa, 94-87. Caitlin Clark, 41 points, and she was knocking down threes from Steph Curry range. I mean, she is a phenomenal player, and LSU loses. They will not defend their national championship. Iowa moves on to the Final Four, and Iowa will join UConn, who knocked off USC last night. UConn is another one of those programs that, since REM has been there, they've been the creme de la creme, but they've been, by their standards, not quite up to the standard of the last few years. But they knocked off USC. A lot of people are surprised by that. They'll join South Carolina and NC State in the Final Four. Of course, South Carolina looking to go unbeaten. Interesting here, Justin. You realize we have not one, but 2 teams, 2 programs that are in the Final Four. NC State and UConn are both in the men's and women's Final Four. That's remarkable. Braves last night in Chicago, bad weather game, 9-0 over the White Sox as Atlanta they look strong again. They're 3-1, and the one game they lost, they probably should have won to the Phillies. But they win 9-0 in a game that was cold and dreary, but not cold and dreary for the Braves as they get that victory. All right, that's a check of some headlines here on the Gary Harris Show. It's 9:15. We've got Judy Arman, the Rocket Man, coming up at 9:30. In the next segment, wide open for your phone calls on the First and Main Condominiums hotline at 205-342-9904. We'd love to hear from you, so go ahead and give us a call. How's your bracket? Well, like I said, I'm pretty proud of the fact that I've got 3 of the Final Four. I've got UConn, Bama, and Purdue. The only team I missed, NC State, as did a lot of people. But I do have UConn winning it all. So we'll see what happens. All right, we're going to get to the break, and we'll be back with more of the Gary Harris Show. And I'd love to hear some of your Alabama basketball memories. I was listening to Wimp and Barry inside the locker room with Justin and Coach even before he had to step away and call. People were calling in talking about, I remember that 1987. I remember the NIT bat with Coach Newton. I remember this game. I remember that game. This is a good time to go down a good time to go down memory lane is with Alabama in the Final Four. So what are your basketball memories? I'd love to hear them. So let us know. All right, we'll be back right after this on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
This season of Alabama football on Tide 100.9, brought to you by Birmingham Racecourse Casino. Just a few minutes away, where you can be a winner, too.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. It's a daily update on Bama sports, and it's brought to you by Everwood Treatment Company, the official treated lumber of Alabama athletics. Everwood, wood treated right. Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. On Thursday's edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, we'll be joined by Alabama softball third baseman Bailey Dowling.
So when I got hurt my freshman year, I blew out my whole left knee, and I didn't really have anything to lean on when that had happened. And my family, I grew up in Illinois, so I never had family here, being 9 hours away. It's just the team. And so being hurt and having to go through that journey and rehab and everything, my mom had always given me bracelets growing up in high school, and they always had sayings on them, and one of them was, be fearless. So that always kind of stuck with me a little bit, and then we started talking about it, and I'd found that bracelet again, and that saying just stuck with me. And when you go through a serious injury like that, it's not only hard physically to come back from it, but mentally that's harder to do. And so having that saying, it just really stuck with me. And
I'll have more in a moment.
Producing championship quality lumber is not an easy process, but at Everwood Preserving, it's our only process. Wood treated right. Everwood offers top-notch pressure-treated wood for decks, outdoor structures, commercial jobs, and more that you can build your reputation on. When it comes to quality, we're on the winning team. Visit your local Everwood dealer today and discover the difference for yourself. Everwood Preserving Incorporated, the official lumber of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
If you missed last night's edition of Hey Coach presented by Alpha Insurance, catch it on demand on the Alabama Insider Podcast.
So great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to Now.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept, Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m., available for after-hours events, rehearsal dinners, receptions, and birthdays. They offer brunch and lunch catering. Call Brick and Spoon at 205-345-5551 for more information.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Warm and breezy today, mostly cloudy with thunderstorms arriving this afternoon and tonight. The storms could be strong to severe. The main threat, strong straight line winds. The high today 83, tonight's low 50. Tomorrow gradual clearing and cooler, the high 64. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 71 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 9:21. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show for this Tuesday, April 2nd. Be weather aware this evening. There is a chance this afternoon and evening for some severe weather. I don't think it's what you would call a mega chance, but there is a chance, and be weather aware this afternoon and evening here in West Alabama. All right, let's jump out on the First and Main Condos hotline presented by First and Main Condominiums. Luxury condominiums in historic, beautiful downtown Northport, Alabama. Let's talk to the Cowboy. Hey, Cowboy.
How you doing, Gary?
Doing great.
Well, I hadn't talked to you since Saturday night. I was happy for the basketball program and everything, but, I didn't feel, I'm being honest, I didn't feel the euphoria I would have felt during the Wimp Sanderson era because I was so emotionally into it back in those days that, after Wimp got let go at Alabama, my emotional ties and the hire they made after that, I just kind of let it go a little bit. And I guess, but, Nate Oates has done a tremendous job. It's a great accomplishment for the program, But, I guess some of us older timers just kind of realize we may see it one day or we may not. But it's a total euphoria. But, if it had been a football deal, I'd have been dancing in the streets. But, hate to say that, but
well, everybody teach their own. I will say this, like you said, you at one time would have being here in Tuscaloosa. I got to tell you, Cowboy, there is a football like buzz in this town right now, and that's the truth. That's not me trying to have hyperbole. I'm telling you, when they got back Sunday afternoon at the airport, to the Hey Coach show last night, to people, this basketball team has created a football-like buzz, and it's great. It's remarkable. It is. I will say this: this program finally making it to a Final Four has created, as I said, every bit the buzz that I think it would have created had it happened in 76 or 82 or 86, right? Whenever it's tangible. I mean, you can see it and you can feel it. It's all people are talking about in this town. So maybe your enthusiasm isn't quite where you thought it would be when this happened, but most people's enthusiasm is that high. And the student body, of course, with a lot of the students being from other parts of the country now and younger, they're just, I'm talking to students at the TV station that are, man, my buddy's trying to, sell his car to get money to go out there. Things, you know what I mean? Weird stories about, that some of these students are like, I've got to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to take the bus or I'm going to do whatever. So it's something special.
I agree with that mentality. But, out here in Dallas, you see these people that call themselves Kansas guys you work with or work around, whatever. You got a little swagger with them. I will say, it's kind of fun, but, I talked to another guy in Birmingham. Saturday night, he listens to your show, and he told me that he didn't have the euphoria he thought he would have had.
Really? And that's kind of the same thing for you. I'm surprised by that. Yeah. I really am. I know for me, not being out there in Los Angeles, and I'll be honest with you, I watched the game. I watched the game at home by myself. But when that game was over, I was doing the old getting up off the couch and doing the little, running in place deal. Just trying to, I was full of energy and excitement and enthusiasm.
Yeah. And I guess I just conditioned myself over the years to just so much hurt,
Yeah, but I bet you on Saturday, by Saturday, and of course they'll play the North Carolina State Purdue game first. I bet by game time on Saturday night, you're feeling those butterflies. I bet you will be, Cowboy.
Yeah, I tell you what, I used to put my heart and soul into it. I drove to Charlotte, North Carolina. We lost to Arkansas. Me and a buddy that lives in Atlanta. I've been all over Alabama basketball back in the Wimp Sanderson days. Holy cow!
Yeah, I thought the game when they lost to Arkansas. I thought that was in Atlanta. Because that
was in Charlotte. Indiana played somebody right after that. That was before Arkansas came into the SEC.
Oh, yeah, but I know they played Arkansas one year, and because I was there. It was at the old Omni or wherever Atlanta was because
no, we played Murray State and Wake Forest at the Omni. Murray State was coached by Steve Newton. And Wake Forest was Dave Odom in the winter.
Yeah, but I think you got because because Arkansas had the player who later transferred to Alabama from Christ the King High School, and he lit Alabama up. What was his name?
No, this was when Todd Day and them were freshmen, or 1991.
Okay, that was after, they played. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I got my wires crossed. I'm thinking, Yep, because they played, I'm getting my wires crossed here, but that was, that was the year that they were, because they came into the SEC the next year, right? Yeah, but I still thought that game was in Atlanta because Alabama lost to Arkansas and Arizona State was playing in that same region, weren't they?
Oh, you're thinking of '89 when Bill Frieder was the Michigan coach and he was going to take the Arizona State job. And Jim Backler just said, "Well, we we on a Michigan.
No, I already talked about that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about one year I was at one of those regionals watching, and help me with the guy's name that transferred. He wound up playing at Alabama under David Hobbs. He originally signed with Arizona State from Christ the King High School. Jamal Faulkner. Jamal Faulkner was playing there, and Alabama had lost to Arkansas. But I remember thinking if Alabama had Jamal Faulkner, they would have won that game because he put on a show, and he.
In '91, I swear it was 2 games at the Omni, and then in Charlotte on Thursday night, because I drove back to Atlanta with my friend lives in Atlanta. We drove to Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you now. But Alabama did play in Atlanta before they got to Charlotte, right?
Yeah.
And that's that's where I was at. And I remember seeing. That's what it was. Arkansas played Arizona State, I'm pretty sure. And who did Alabama beat? Was it Wake Forest that Alabama beat in Atlanta?
Yeah, they beat Murray State in the first game.
Yeah, and then beat Wake Forest, and Arkansas beat Arizona State. That's where it was.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking how good Jamal Faulkner was, and he later wound up playing for Alabama. You're right, because that's why good. We're going to get this thing straight. You're right. Alabama
got in foul trouble.
Alabama played 2 in Atlanta, and so did Arkansas. And then Arkansas, the day Alabama beat Wake Forest, Arkansas beat Arizona State, I'm pretty sure. And then they went to Charlotte, and Arkansas blew them out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, beat them like a drum. Am I right?
Second half, Second half, blew it.
Yeah.
Hey, on to something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something with football. What's up with this center that transferred from Washington?
Well, it looks like it appears to me that he's getting beat out by James Brockermeyer. That's what seems to be up.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some people now who, hindsight's always 20/20. I've talked to some people who said James Brockermeyer should have been playing last year. And
that's awesome.
That he didn't have any problems. He didn't have any problems with any snaps. And, I've heard a lot of people, too, now trying to blame the snap issue on Milroe and his cadence, which there could be some truth in that as far as when you snap it. But I always come back with, well, even if you snap it early, shouldn't the snap still hit him, between his waist and his chest? Should it still be at his feet just because he snaps it early? Should it be rolling back there? So,
But I heard that Milroe would change the direction he was going to be, and the center didn't know where he was going to be because he was trying to get a running start with his snap.
I still think the snap should be on the ground, whether it's to the left or the right.
Yeah.
Anyway, regardless, I think what's happening is that Brockermeyer has just had a really, really good spring, and Brailsford came in here with the anticipation of being the starting center, and maybe that's not what's happening. So he's going to look at his options. That's what players do. Now, that's about all I can say. He's still here, so we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, you going out to Phoenix?
Well, you had to ask, didn't you? You had to ask. After I told everybody over the weekend that I was going, and that was my plan, and then we met yesterday. We did the cost analysis because I wasn't going to go by myself. I was going to have to take somebody with me to cover the event the right way. And financially, no, it's just not. And we're not the only television station that's not going. There's a lot of stations aren't going.
I mean, Greg Byrne can't chip in for you guys since he's paying all this money for everything else. Well,
obviously not. Obviously not. Yeah. If I was going with them, I'd be going. But no, I'm not. So I'm not going to wind up going. But we will have somebody out there that's going to do some coverage for us. And as I said, we're not the Lone Ranger here. It's a lot's changed in how you cover these big events. Do I wish I was there? Yeah. And and I thought about going on my own dime, but if I do that, then I'm going to go as a fan. I'm not going to go out there but my responsibility as a sports director won't allow me to do that if I'm going to be out there.
Or visit mezwins.com. I've got this.
No representations made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special, Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free.
Find Tide on Twitter at Tide109 to keep up with show announcements, guests, and our reporters in the field.
And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. Touchdown brings me round.
All right, 9:35. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. And going down memory lane there with Cowboy, and I got my wires crossed, but he was right, because I was at 91 Alabama beat Wake Forest in that second round game in Atlanta. And I remember Dave Odom said in the press conference that Alabama was a Final Four caliber team. And then they went to Charlotte and Arkansas blew them out. But I do remember watching Jamal Faulkner for Arizona State. Even though Arizona State lost, he went for 29 against the Razorbacks in Atlanta in that second round game. I remember telling my buddies, listen, man, that guy's incredible. It wouldn't be something if he ever, if he played with this bunch with Ori and Robinson and those guys. And a couple of years later, he wound up in Tuscaloosa and played with McDyess. But and that was a good Alabama team that didn't make it to the Final Four. But all that's over now. All the speculating about why this team didn't make it and the bad luck that this team had and the draw here and the injury here, it's all water under the bridge now. Alabama's in the Final Four, and the Rocket Man is joining us to talk about it from 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville. And I was so excited. I really cut off his music today, didn't I, Justin? I didn't even let it play that long. You played it, but I just kind of talked right over it. So here we go. I mean, I'm hyped. I'm hyped. There we go. We got the Rocket Man. All right, Drew. Good morning. I'm doing a little cleanup there because I got confused. I was trying to go back to that 91 season because that was a really good team. And I was thinking Alabama played Arkansas in Atlanta, but they actually played them in Charlotte that year, but got run out of the gym. Good morning. How are you?
Good, Gary. How are you, man?
Well, pumped up, as a lot of us are. First, just your reaction to Alabama finally going where I know you and I both think Alabama should have gone before. I really think that it should not have taken until 2024, but good things come to those who wait, and Alabama's finally at the basketball promised land, the college basketball promised land, the Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. There's been so much talent come through Tuscaloosa since the late 60s into through the 70s and 80s and the 90s, and they went through a little bit of a drought, there after, Mark Gottfried Sr. kind of came to an end. They only went to 2 tournaments during that next 13 years or so, but there was still a rich history of Alabama basketball if you look at it. And, they finally made the right hire with Nate Oates, who has quickly reinvigorated the program. And, he's had a couple teams that were more talented than this one, but a lot of it is about luck, and especially with injuries and draw and getting hot at the right time, and especially in this era of NIL and the transfer portal, about gelling at the right time. And certainly this team is not completely healthy and hasn't been for a long time, but what, the injuries kind of created was opportunities for other guys to step up. And the cool thing about this run is, of course, it's been headlined by Mark Sears, who is going to probably go down as good a guard as has ever played at the University of Alabama. He certainly had this season is as good as any guard that's ever played it for the Tide. But the supporting cast around him, they've all had their moments. Ryland Griffin has really been defending well this year and grown into that role, and he had an underrated, Sweet 16, Elite 8. He got into double digits both games. But you saw in the first 2 rounds, Muhammad Diobate, he has his moment against Grand Canyon where he plays really well. And then against College of Charleston, because it's really been his only extended time, you saw the impact Latrell Wrightsville can have on this team. He had 17 in that game against Charleston. And people forget Alabama was trailing 19-13 in that game and built as much as a 31-point lead because of the offensive explosion. And then you get to the Sweet 16, and Grant Nelson has his moment. And then it was kind of the three-headed monster against, after they beat Carolina against, Clemson. It was Nick Pringle having the best game of his career, in my opinion, outworking P.J. Hall, outworking, all of the post guys, including Shefflin, for Clemson. And then, of course, it was so apropos to have Robert Horry in the house in Los Angeles, where he had so many of his bright pro moments. But people forget how good Robert was when he came from Andalusia High School for Alabama. And to watch almost his twin, or I could say his son, Jaron Stevenson almost, his stepson, have his coming out party and make 5 threes and score 19, because he has so many similarities to Robert's game, man. It was a watershed moment for Alabama basketball. I'm not going to lie to your listeners. I mean, I cried like a baby. I've been waiting for this for so long, for this program, because I really think in many ways that they don't get the respect they deserve. And hopefully that's going to continue, and they're getting a lot of positive pub, and it's all earned by Nate Oates and this coaching staff. And quite frankly, I don't know that he'll win any of those awards this year, but for what he's done this year, rebuilding his entire coaching staff, getting this team playing at peak efficiency and defending at the best time of the year, I think Nate Oates should be National Coach of the Year with what he's done for Alabama. But again, he's going to be on the short list, and what he's done is truly amazing, and hopefully it's going to continue to help Alabama continue to transition to a new arena. And like I've said many times, UConn is the huge favorite coming into this, but we've already seen 1985 with Georgetown, 1983, when Vice Lama Jamma was the big favorite, 2015 with Kentucky, 91 for UNLV. None of those teams won it. So Alabama, they're gonna give it their best shot, and hopefully have a chance to shock the world. But certainly getting to the Final Four is a huge step for Nate Oates, and it's going to continue helping I guess move along this rebuild and this rebrand of Alabama basketball, which to me they're on the precipice of becoming an elite program. Because guess what? 30 years ago, Gonzaga wasn't elite. UConn wasn't either. You earn your way to that kind of status, and hopefully Alabama basketball is on their way now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, obviously UConn, what they're doing is right now they're on a historic run in the tournament in terms of how they're beating people. But for most teams, it's like Alabama. You got to win some close games. And I guess what I thought about watching the North Carolina and the Clemson games is in the SEC, Alabama won some close games. They made plays when they had to make them. Now, they got blown out in a few of their losses, but they have a team that they seem to have the clutch gene, because both of those games, it came down to the final 2 minutes. And Alabama's just out-executed both North Carolina and Clemson, and that's what it takes to get to this point, is you've got to be able to make the plays. Obviously, it's a 40-minute game, but it often comes down to what you do in that final 2 or 3 minutes in the game, and Alabama outperformed their opponents in both those games, and that's why they advanced.
Well, don't forget, Gary. I mean, they trailed Grand Canyon 58-55.
That's true too.
I mean, it was getting very late in the game, and Bo Diobati made several plays and helped Alabama go on a run, and then they closed it out on basically a 12-0 run to win it 72-61. I mean, it was an amazing comeback, and it was a gutty one because Grand Canyon, I'll give Bryce Drew credit. They were very athletic. They weren't as skilled, but they blocked everything, and they did and I think Bryce made a conscious effort. He didn't want to run with Alabama. He wanted to slow the game down because he saw what they did against Charleston. But the key for Alabama in those two Sweet 16 and Elite 8 matchups that you talked about, Alabama was able to speed up North Carolina and yet defend them very well, especially R.J. Davis. Rylan Griffin did a great job there. And then Alabama started making shots in the second half against Clemson, and when they did that, it made Clemson uncomfortable. They had to shoot more threes than they wanted to. They couldn't slow the clock down. They couldn't, try to get it inside as much to P.J. Hall. Alabama sped them up as well. It's going to be fascinating to see what they do against UConn, because UConn's the best team in the country, and this had slipped my mind. Someone pointed it out, and I was looking at it earlier this week. People forget Alabama played that UConn team last year in Portland, in pre-conference, and played them tough for a half. But UConn controlled the second half. Alabama went 2-1 in that event. They beat North Carolina in 4 overtimes, but they lost 82-67 to UConn. So they've seen this UConn team, but it's a different UConn team. It's a different Alabama team. So, it's going to be a very difficult matchup for Alabama, but I'm sure it's one they're really looking forward to. Because guess what, Gary? The national media hasn't picked Alabama to win a game since Charleston. If you look at most of the national media, they had them going out against Grand Canyon. They didn't have them beating North Carolina. North Carolina's a blue blood #1 seed. And then most didn't have them beating Clemson because of what Clemson did to them earlier in the year. But, that's why the NCAA tournament's the greatest event in sports, in my opinion, because it doesn't go completely to script. But you look at NC State on the other side of the bracket, they had to win 5 games in 5 days just to get in the tournament, and now they beat Duke again for the first time in 2 weeks. A lot of what they're doing is eerily similar to, what they did in '83. And then Terrence Oglesby from the Field of 68 joined us this morning on Talking Ball and pointed out something else that I had forgotten. DJ Burns, who I know you watched, Gary, in the tournament, who's an outstanding big man for NC State, great passer, really big guy with great feet, a great feel for the game. He started his career at Tennessee and then went to Winthrop, and then ends up, at NC State. They've got 6 transfers in their top 8. And they're playing Purdue, who's on a mission after what happened to them against Fairleigh Dickinson. And Alabama, I thought, played well against Purdue earlier this year. So, who knows what's going to happen in the Final Four. I mean, it's not inconceivable to believe NC State could play Alabama in the national championship game. And if that happened, how crazy would that be? I don't think anybody's bracket would be right. But, it would be tremendous. And certainly I'm looking forward to Alabama going out there and competing, and I know they are as well. And it's just great to see the fan base so excited. And as I told Brian Pasek this morning, because I've listened to him for years, we've been friends for years, this was a very cathartic moment for those that love University of Alabama basketball, because there's been some great coaches and players in this program that never got to compete in the Final Four, and now they're competing for all those guys. And everybody's got a shot, man. And Alabama's got a shot to win a national championship in basketball, and it's a really, really cool moment.
Let's focus in for a moment, Drew DeArmond with us on the Connecticut game, because, they are so impressive. They scored all 3 levels, 3-point, mid-range, on the post. Defensively, they can smother you. They've got depth, they've got size, and they got an attitude. And Dan Hurley has a little bit of, he's got a chip on his shoulder, and I think they intimidate some teams. One advantage I think Alabama's got is I think Alabama will be loose, and I think the fact that Hurley and Oates are such good friends, and the connection between the families, and when Hurley was at Rhode Island, the first player he signed was from Romulus High School, and then Bobby Hurley hired Nate Oates at Buffalo, and then when Bobby Hurley left for Arizona State, Nate Oates got that job. I think that familiarity will, the edge that UConn has and that attitude, I think that because of the familiarity between the coaches, I think Alabama will be relaxed, and I think that will help them. Drew, does that make any sense?
Yeah, you got to understand too. Dan Hurley, as you said, he recommended to Bobby to hire Nate Oates, but Nate Oates has had a swagger to him and a chip on his shoulder as well. They're kind of cut from the same cloth.
True, yeah.
Very, very much so in the way they coach, no doubt about it. I think Dan Hurley, I remember when he brought his Rhode Island team to Tuscaloosa, and they competed very hard against Avery Johnson, lost a close game. I asked Dan Hurley in the aftermath of the game about his brother and about his father, who Bob Hurley Sr., who I think is
legendary.
He and Morgan Wooten, he and Morgan Wooten are probably the 2 greatest high school coaches of all time, and the influence that he's had over Dan. And Dan was, kind of overshadowed by Bobby. He was his younger brother, but he was a very good player at Seton Hall, and it's amazing that 14 years ago he was a high school coach at St. Benedict's. And 11 years ago, Oates was at Romulus, and now they're 2 of the best college coaches in the country. And I thought Dan would do a really good job at Connecticut. I'm not surprised. And don't forget, I believe he's an alum, but I think he was also part of Dan Hurley's staff at Rhode Island was Preston Murphy. So Preston Murphy there's also a connection there, and he's done a great job so far on Nate Oates' staff recruiting. So it's going to be a really fascinating matchup. I think the keys, Alabama, there's three real keys to me for having a chance to beat Connecticut. They're going to have to make, in the high teens to low 20s and threes. I really believe that. They're going to have to shoot three as well as they've shot it all year, but they're capable. And I think they're going to get Latrell Wrightsell back, and so maybe he will be refreshed and shoot the ball really well. They're going to have to stay in it on the glass somehow. They out-rebounded Clemson significantly, but they're going to have to compete and stay within striking distance, if not out-rebound UConn, and that's just by effort and staying with it. And then they've got to have one of those games where they keep the turnovers probably under 10, where there's no live ball turnovers, where they give – you see, that's how they lost the lead against Grand Canyon. Too many live ball turnovers that gave Grand Canyon a chance to score in the open court. UConn's already good enough. You can't give them those kind of opportunities to run selectively. You've got to, be able to take care of the basketball, and yet you want to push the pace. I think the game needs to be played in the mid to high 80s. If it is, I think Alabama's got a great shot to win. That's what I thought about with Clemson. I thought if Alabama gets the game in the 80s, because they didn't the first time around, I felt like, that meant they were playing well offensively and shooting the three, and they would have a good shot at beating Clemson. And I think if they can do those three things I just mentioned against UConn, it will give them a chance. I mean, there's no, delusions. UConn is a tremendous basketball team, and there's a reason they're number one in the country. But there's also the NCAA tournament. A lot of times, the best team doesn't always win. Last year, UConn wasn't favored. They were a 4 seed, and they got really hot. So let's just see what this Alabama team can do, and and like you said earlier, they're just going to let it rip.
Yeah, they will. I have no doubt about that. All right, Drew, I got to keep it to about a minute, but I do want to mention football. I think Saturday, it's easy to forget because we're in this basketball state of mind. Alabama's going to scrimmage again, and it's probably going to be one of the most underwhelming scrimmages in terms of media that we've had in a long time around here. But just a quick thought on football. They scrimmaged last Thursday. What are your what are you hearing so far on the spring and looking forward to on the scrimmage coming up on Saturday?
Well, I just want to see the continued progress of the offensive line. Interesting storyline with Parker Brailsford. Right. What's going on with him. And James Brockermeyer, winning the center battle so far. What's the progress of the offensive tackle spots, especially with looking for me, Miles McVay, Elijah Pritchett? What do they look like? How's the pass protection? No question. With Jalen Hill being out, which receivers are kind of stepping up and taking advantage of opportunities? No question about that. Caleb Odom, you continue to hear great things about him. And as a freshman, what kind of plays will he make? Josh Cuevas, he caught a touchdown pass. He's another new body at tight end that you're going to want to kind of monitor. Of course, the quarterbacks. And I think Jalen Milrose put himself in great position, but it was good to hear that Ty Simpson played very well and is taking off with this new coaching staff. It's going to be very interesting to kind of follow. And defensively, impressive defensive line depth. It looks like it's being created. The linebacker core, some of the Keanu Coots of the world, and Q-Rob, Quindarius Robinson, how they're taking with this coaching staff. And then an underrated part, we haven't heard too much about it, but, huge shoes to fill at place kicker. How's Connor Talty doing? We know that they've got a really good punter back, but I'm going to be anxious to see kind of what's going on with the buzz coming out of the second scrimmage, but then what's going to be happening that Saturday night. All the eyes are going to rightfully be on Alabama basketball, and just can't wait for the opportunity to play in the Final Four in Phoenix against UConn. Great stuff as always, Drew. I'm right up against the clock, but folks, 977 ESPN Radio, give them the Twitter handle real quick too. Yeah, absolutely. Drew D, 977 ESPN. Also, all our content is on 977ESPN.com, and our stations.
5. For for 15% off your first purchase. Love it or return it for free. That's LUME deodorant.com, code 25 to save 15% today.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Warm and breezy today, mostly cloudy with thunderstorms arriving this afternoon and tonight. The storms could be strong to severe. The main threat, strong straight line winds. The high today 83, tonight's low 50. Tomorrow gradual clearing and cooler, the high 64. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 73 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to The Gary Harris Show. For Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:57. That's going to wrap it up for hour number one. It's been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Join today and feel good about your money. It's just a great, great place. Find out more at alabamacu.com. All right, hour number two is coming up. We're going to start it off talking bass fishing with Justin Hamner, local guy making good, winning the Super Bowl of bass fishing, and plenty of time for more of your phone calls, basketball discussion, football discussion, whole lot coming up in the second hour of the Gary Harris Show. So keep it tuned in to Tide 100.9 FM, 1230 AM WTBC, the Tide 109 app, and Tide 109.
A money back guarantee.
Text support to 511-511. Morning Kick. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour specials. And for the best Mexican cuisine in West Alabama, remember, the name is Los Tarascos with locations in Tuscaloosa and Northport.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. It's the Tide 100.9 30K Workday Payday. Woo! Win cash every weekday 8 to 5. Here's this hour's cash code.
725. Again, that's 725. The code is 725.
Enter that code now on the Tide 100.9 app. Click on the 30K Payday button and enter the code for a chance to win $30,000.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Monsi Bolaños.
Iowa star Caitlin Clark delivered in the Elite Eight.
12 on the shot clock. Hands off to Clark. As we approach 5 minutes. Step back, right wing three. You've got to be kidding me. Caitlin Clark grabs her chest, looks to the crowd, matches a career high with 9 threes. She's got 37.
Lance Meadow and Kim Adams from Westwood won on the call. Number 1 seed Iowa beat number 3 seed LSU 94-87. Caitlin Clark had 41 points and 12 assists in the win. Number 3 seed UConn knocked off number 1 seed USC 80-73. In Major League Baseball, the Astros got their first win of the season as they blew out the Blue Jays 10-0. Ronel Blanco tossed a no-hitter. It was the 17th no-hitter in franchise history. In the NBA, Devin Booker dropped 52 points as the Suns beat the Pelicans 124-111, and the Celtics beat the Hornets 118-104.
Now, this hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
There is an enhanced 3 and 5 risk for strong to severe thunderstorms north of the Tuscaloosa to Carrollton line, a slight 2 and 5 risk south of that line late this afternoon and early evening. On a 3-1 vote, Anmar Aiken has been selected by the Northport City Council to fill the unexpired District 5 term of resigned Council President Jeff Hogg. Emagar Latrell Reitzel Jr. expected to return to practice as the Tide prepares for this weekend's Final Four, but Tide coach Nate Oates says he must pass a medical protocol for a concussion before he can be cleared.
Get 24/7 local news coverage and sports updates when you download the free Tuscaloosa Thread app and sign up for twice daily email newsletters. The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, let's go. Hour number 2, the Gary Harris Show, right here on Tide 100.9 FM, 1230 AM WTBC. I'm Gary Harris, Justin Jones, right there on the other side of the glass, manning your controls as always, and taking phone calls on the Krispy Kreme Donuts hotline here in hour number 2. This hour of the program brought to you, as always, by Patterson Comer, attorneys at law. Listen, the big 800 firms, yeah, they're easy to find. They're advertising all the time, and they're going to do the job for you. I have no doubt about that, but I don't know if they'll have the patience to stay with you all the way. They get an offer from the insurance company, they're probably going to take it. Patterson Comer, feet on the ground in West Alabama. Paul Patterson and Mike Comer, they'll be with you all the way. You may talk to one of those 800 firms. You may talk to a lawyer that you never meet in person. That won't be the case with Paul and Mike. You will meet them. You'll sit down with them. They'll go with you all the way, even into the courtroom if that's what it takes. So if you have legal issues as a result of an automobile accident, personal injury, wrongful death, product liability, or 18-wheeler accident, give them a call today. Paul's in Tuscaloosa at 205-345-1000. Mike's in Northport at 205-759-3939. Remember, the commitment to serve our clients does not stop at the end of the workday. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. PattersonComerLawFirm.com.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of services performed by other lawyers.
All right, we're going to jump out on the Krispy Kreme Donuts hotline. It's my pleasure to be joined by Justin Hamner, professional bass fisherman. Folks, I've said this on the show already this morning. If you play in the NFL, you want to win the Super Bowl. If you're a basketball team, you want to make it to the Final Four. If you're a baseball team, you want to win the World Series. A golfer wants to win the U.S. Open, the Masters, tennis, the U.S. Open, the Wimbledon, same type thing. In bass fishing, the Super Bowl is the Bassmaster Classic. Only one can win it, and it's Northport, Alabama's very own Justin Hamner. Just a few weeks ago out in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Grand Lake, he took home the biggest prize in bass fishing, beating out 56 elite anglers from the Bassmaster Elite Series. They cut it down to 25. He led wire to wire. He picked up a $300,000 first place prize, which is life-changing money, but that doesn't include all the endorsements and all the opportunities that will now come his way. He is with us this morning. 2009 graduate of Tuscaloosa County High School just a few years ago, working at a lawn service, laying concrete, trying to finance his professional bass fishing career. Doesn't have to worry about that anymore. Good morning, Justin. How are you?
Man, that is a good feeling. I hope I never see a blade of grass again.
Well, you probably only will when you're rolling your boat down to the boat landing to get it in the water, man. Congratulations. Before we kind of look back at your career and how you got to this point, just what happened, 3 weeks or so ago in Tulsa. I mean, you're in the biggest, of course, you had to earn your way to the Elite Series. I get that. But now you're in the Super Bowl of bass fishing against the creme de la creme, the best of the best. 58 pounds, 3 ounces over 3 days. You led wire to wire. Again, I love fishing as for recreational purposes, but as a sport and the competition factor, did you go into that tournament? No, of course, the water, did it suit you? Did you feel like you had a shot to win going in?
I really did. I've never been to that lake before, but, fishing Lake Tuscaloosa all my life, it's such a hard place to fish. If everybody around here kind of knows that. But Grand Lake kind of set up like that just because every day it kind of changes so much. So I was kind of prepared for that. Obviously, it's got a little bit bigger fish over there, but I was very comfortable going into it.
And then you have the big first day. And I guess then that really has your mind racing. We think of, adrenaline in sports, but in bass fishing, after you have a big first day and you can kind of feel it, do you have to keep your emotions in check, or how do you handle the adrenaline and all the things that go with it? And of course, when you get a fish hooked, you want to make sure you get him in the boat. Does that come into play in bass fishing where you can get too hyped, too excited? Do you kind of have to try to keep your emotions in check?
Absolutely. I mean, bass fishing, it's honestly, it's one of the biggest mental games. We're out there by ourselves. We don't every other sport, has golfers have a caddy, football has other teammates. Well, in bass fishing, you're all on your own, and you're going against an animal that's unpredictable. And yeah, it gets to be a mental grind out there, but you have to, stay calm, stay in it, stay focused. If your head starts spinning and you start chasing around, and we call it getting spun out, and that means you're just going around everywhere and not making the right decision. So it's definitely a mental game.
All right, so you got a good feeling. You like the body of water. What was your strategy? And after you had success after the first day, do other anglers try to get on top of you, steal your pockets where you're fishing? How does that work? How do you fend off the competition?
They're very, very respectful out there.
Okay.
We're all out there to make a living. We all get that. And, it's kind of one of those unspoken rules. Whenever you have the tournament leader in an area, you try to stay away, and they're really good about respecting that. So props to those guys. None of them got in my way, but ended up where I caught all my fish on day one, couldn't even get a bite. So I had to completely, had to scrap that and go find something else. So
you had to change course right in the middle of the tournament because you went back to the honey hole, so to speak, and it wasn't providing any honey on day two.
Correct. And, the younger me would have probably just freaked out and stayed there and tried to make it happen. But, this is my fourth year, so I was getting a little bit more comfortable, making those quick decisions on the water. So I completely abandoned that area and went to something completely different and ended up catching my fish there on the day two.
Justin Hamner, 2024 Bassmaster Classic champion with us from Northport, Alabama. All right, you celebrated a birthday just a couple days before this event. So, I know you've had 33 birthdays now, but I doubt there's been another one that was like this one.
Definitely. It's going to be hard to beat this one. It's pretty much, it's a big whirlwind. Right before our practice started was my wife's birthday, and actually our anniversary while I was practicing, and then my birthday was the day before the tournament. So
holy cow!
we just get it all knocked out in one fell swoop.
All right, for you as a professional bass fisherman, obviously the financial gain, that goes without saying. That's going to be life changing. But career wise, you'll always be a Bassmaster champion. This is, the Hall of Fame, so to speak, of bass fishing, and you'll have that, you'll have your name on that plaque. But I guess you're going to be back. You told me yesterday you're going to be back fishing in Florida here, a couple tournaments coming up. So you enjoy it, but just like any other sport, you go back to work, and you have to, I guess, be able to put it behind you, and because this doesn't guarantee that you're going to catch a bunch of fish coming up in the next tournament, right?
Absolutely, because every tournament, it's starting back over from scratch, and it's been such a whirlwind. After winning, doing all these interviews, and everybody's pulling me in all these different directions. But I think it'll be good. I'm excited just to get back on the water, get out there, get my head back into just fishing, and I'm really looking forward to that.
The Elite Series, give us some insight in how you earned, because BASS, and the big, Bassmaster is the best, but there are other professional fishing outlets and other series. How do you earn your spot in the Elite Series?
So you really have to work your way up, just like everything else. We kind of compare it to minor leagues, I guess, is called the Bassmaster Opens. So it's like a full 9-event per year schedule, and like the top 9 guys from that series, out of like 250, they are the ones that qualify for the Elite Series. And we have like 100 guys, and you've got to stay at the top, or you'll kind of get delegated back down to the minor league, so to speak. So it's definitely grueling just to get there, and then staying there is even harder. These guys, this is their livelihood. A lot of these guys, we have Rick Clunn. He's kind of the legend of the sport, and he's been there for, this is his 50th year. So it's pretty crazy just to be fishing against these guys. But
yeah, Rick
they
Clunn.
bring it.
Yeah, I mean, Rick Clunn, Hank Parker, some of the names, historic legends in bass fishing. What about, am I right? Because I was trying to read up and get some info on your career. You make it to the Elite Series, but is this the first tournament that you had won as an Elite Series angler?
It is. As far as the professional circuit goes, it is my first tournament, so I figured I might as well start with a bang.
Boy, you did. I mean, it's like the guy that comes out and wins the Daytona 500. I mean, that is just awesome. All right, I want to ask you about. I don't know if it's a controversy, but I mentioned Hank Parker. Listen, from depth finders in the 70s, everybody's trying to get an edge, even recreational anglers. You want to get yourself on some fish, but tell me about this controversy with the front-facing sonar. I know Hank Parker in particular has said it's just taking the fishing out of bass fishing and you're just target practicing. You used it. I guess most of the top guys do, forward-facing sonar to catch fish. Should it be allowed? What advantage does it give you? Where do you come in? Obviously, you just won the Bassmaster Classic, but where do you come down on that part of the bass fishing?
It is very controversial because we just don't have that right answer as of now. But, BASS is really doing, or BASS, the organization's really putting a lot of effort into, seeing how it affects the fish and the fisheries. Me personally, I feel like it's just like any other tool that we've had back in the day. Technology keeps getting better and better. And it's just a way for us we're actually seeing the fish in live time now, but by no means does it mean when you see a fish on that graph that it's going to bite, or if it's even a bass. I mean, there's still a ton of skill goes into learning that technology. And me, I'm all about it just because I love learning as much as possible about the fish and what they're actually doing. So, who knows what's going to happen in the future. If they ban it, that's fine with me too, because at the end of the day, I just love bass fishing, and however we can go, I'm good with it.
You're going to fish the rules, whatever they are. I get it. All right, let me ask you about growing up here in West Alabama. Of course, everybody that lives here knows that this is a very heavily used outdoors area. A lot of people fish and hunt. But I'm interested in how, you grow up fishing. Of course, you're playing ball too, baseball and all those things. You're a normal kid. How does one go from enjoying fishing and doing it as a hobby, or maybe fishing local tournaments, to deciding, hey man, I want to be a professional bass fisherman? When did you make that decision? And I know it wasn't easy. You talked about the sacrifices your wife and your family has made to help you get there. But when do you go from, man, I like fishing and I love fishing and I'm going out every day after work and fishing, to I want to make my living as a professional fisherman?
Oh man, it's been a dream of mine ever since I was a kid. Watching those guys like we talked about earlier, winning these Bassmaster Classics and things like that. It's always been in my mind that this is what I want to be able to do for a living. And honestly, every job that I had before was kind of geared towards, hey, I can actually have enough time off to be able to go and try to fish the opens and try to qualify. But really in 2019 was my first year that I quit working for the University of Alabama and just completely went out on a limb, started my own lawn care and was pouring concrete during the day. But it gave me that time off to be able to travel all around to fish those opens to try to qualify. So
to get to this point, you again, after the tournament was over, I was listening to your interview you did there, and you talked about, almost teared up, the sacrifices your wife has made to help you get to this point. I guess, though, as a family, it's all worth it when you win the Super Bowl of bass fishing, huh? And I guess all those dreams and all that sacrifice that had to be made for you to be out on the road and do this, I guess it's all worthwhile then, huh?
It really is. Me just holding that trophy that's always been my childhood dream. But I think what gets me so emotional is being able to do this for my family and provide for my family. As much as we're going on the road, or I'm gone and she's having to stay home and take care of our little girl, and then plus, working a job, and I mean, just financially just stressed out to the max. To be able to now be able to breathe a little bit, have that, that's the feeling that it really seems like it makes it all worth it. So definitely for them more than anything, I'm just excited.
Yeah, you hear it in your voice. Justin Hamner with us, 2024 Bassmaster Classic champion. And listen, you can't overlook it. I mean, it's a fact. Like you said, you're out there to make a living, and you get a pop of $300,000 for a first place prize. And I don't want you don't have to go into specifics, but it isn't just the prize money, right? I mean, it's the endorsements, it's the status that going forward that you have now to be able to make sure that you can continue to do this for a living, and as you said, provide for your family in a way that kind of takes the stress off a little bit.
Absolutely. And, we couldn't do this without the sponsors that we have. And, obviously the biggest part of that is being able to sell products for them. And, that's how they pay us. And so being able to win, the top prize, be a Bassmaster Classic champion just gives that much more validity to being able to go to these sponsors and being able to, get more eyeballs on me. And, as much as I don't like being out in the public and talking about myself, but that's something that kind of comes with the territory, and I'm just glad I can positively, represent these companies.
Well, you come across as very humble, and you're right. Now that you're a Bassmaster Classic champion, that's part of the job. It's part of the gig, and I appreciate you joining us here locally. And that's kind of when we'll close this out. This is your home. I assume you're going to continue to make it your home. Just your experiences growing up here, how that shaped you, the opportunity to fish and hunt, and will you continue to be based now that you're a big-time Bassmaster Classic champion? Will you continue to be based here in West Alabama?
Absolutely. I couldn't leave around here. I love this community and all these guys that I grew up fishing against and fishing with, and, just all these little local tournaments and stuff. I'm just so excited to be able to, bring this trophy home and see all of my friends and all the guys that, probably would love to be in my shoes. And it's just so hard to get there, but hopefully we can do this for them. And, it's just a really good community around here. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and we're excited for you. All right, finally, Justin, I know because you told me yesterday that you got a couple tournaments to fish down in Florida. How many more tournaments are on the circuit for this year? When does the season wrap up?
We have 7 more tournaments, and we wrap up, I believe it's in August up in New York. So we still got a long ways to go, but, we've already had 2 of our Elite Series tournaments and done really well in them. So hopefully we can keep doing good and just keep this ball rolling. It's been a very good month, very good year. Heck, it's been crazy. So I'm looking forward to just getting back on the water and getting to go fishing again.
Yeah, and like you said, you don't want to stop now. I mean, you want to win some more tournaments, and of course, winning one time is incredible, but I know if you can win another one, that would really put you. And help me out. Who's when I was doing working on the Tommy Wilcox show, the guy from Demopolis that won it like 20 years ago.
Boyd Duckett.
Yeah, Boyd Duckett. Have you had any conversations with him?
I have not. He's kind of went to the Major League Fishing side.
Oh, he's on a different tour. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But never know. Maybe he'll reach out one day
down the road. You might have to make some of those choices, because I'm sure that the other series are going to try to want to talk to you. You going to handle it yourself, or you going to get yourself an agent?
Oh, well, that was the first thing I did when we got back to the hotel room after everything kind of settled down. I looked at my wife and told her she just got a big promotion. So.
Well, she's the one that called me to help me get you on. So she's already taken the bull by the horns. So, my buddy, I appreciate it. It's local boy makes good, and I wanted to get you on the show. And the next time I talk to Tommy, we need to. Of course, you got to work around your schedule. We need to get you on the Tommy Wilcox Outdoor Show too.
Absolutely. I'd love to do it. Let's go fishing one day.
All right, Justin. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me, Gary.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Justin Hamner, Bassmaster Classic champion for 2024. All right, we're going to get
Meal options fast. Clean Eats is now open downtown with a full-service lunch and dinner cafe, coffee and smoothie bar, healthy meal prep, and grab-and-goes. Clean Eats on University across from the Federal Courthouse. CleanEATZ.com.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Warm and breezy today, mostly cloudy with thunderstorms arriving this afternoon and tonight. The storms could be strong to severe. The main threat, strong straight line winds. The high today 83, tonight's low 50. Tomorrow, gradual clearing and cooler, the high 64. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 75 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Alabama Crimson Tide lives right here.
Down to the pylon. Touchdown, Alabama.
On Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:26 here on the Gary Harris Show. Gary Harris, Justin Jones, and really enjoyed that interview with Justin Hamner. I mean, local boy makes good, and man, just a really neat story. And now he's a Bassmaster Classic champion. Also, want to mention, I remember when throwing a no-hitter in the big leagues was a lead story on Sportscast. But Ronel Blanco for the Astros threw one last night in his 8th career start. As the Astros picked up their first win of the season, they've been 0-4. They beat the Blue Jays 10-0, and so we already had a no-hitter, and we're just barely into the season. So I wanted to mention that, but it's no-hitters have lost a lot of their cachet. For one thing, they're more frequent than what you would think, and secondly, we've had a lot of because pitchers don't go the distance anymore, we've had a lot of these, combined no-hitters where, 2, 3, 4 pitchers combine on a no-hitter, and that kind of takes a little bit of the luster off it. But I think also, too, Justin, I'm curious. And I'm on ESPN.com right now, and the whole front page, I mean, you scroll all the way down, you got women's basketball story, 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 and then you get to the no-hitter. ESPN has the women's tournament. I get it, and it is incredible. But it's I was a little disappointed, and I'm not going to lie to you. Saturday night, I turned on SportsCenter after the Alabama game, wanted to get some Alabama and Clemson coverage, and finally, about, 35 minutes into the show, it got mentioned. They led with the women's matchups ahead of the men's, which is just, say that's right or wrong. There's a lot of emphasis being put on coverage of women's basketball by ESPN.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the women's game is maybe the most exciting it's been ever, and I think a lot of the coverage is deserved. But you're right. I did actually notice that after the end of the Alabama game, it was like the main broadcast ended, and then out was it. Like, they kind of brushed over it. They didn't talk about it till, like you said, about 30 minutes later into the programming. It was very strange.
So it's going to be a crazy, crazy weekend with Final Fours on the men's and women's side, and just a great time for basketball. All right, we got to get to the break so we can get back on time. As I said, we're guest-free the rest of the way. I do want to mention to you before we hit the break that it's a great time to join the YMCA, too. Anytime's a great time. Like I said, the Y is ready when you're ready for the Y. And 2300 13th Street, I'm headed there after my show today to get a workout in. Love the place, love the people. It's just it's more than just a gym. It is really a community of people, man. You'll make friends, you'll meet people.
Remember M for money and Mesrano.
If it has a logo on it, call me. 205-800-8000.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
right, 10:33. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM, 1230 AM WTBC, the Tide 109 app, and Tide109.com. What's happened with our app messages? I hadn't been promoting them or whatever. We haven't been getting them the way we were for a while.
We just haven't been getting some. I don't know.
Huh?
We just haven't been getting some, I guess.
Well, listen, download that app. Download that Tide 109 app and get those messages coming back in. I mean, we were rolling with those for a while. Not getting any for a while. Remember that. Tide 109 app. All right, let's jump out on the Krispy Kreme Donuts hotline. And Mike is with us from down in Opelika, Alabama, down there in southeast Alabama, trying to fend off all those Auburn fans. Hey, Mike, good morning.
Good morning. I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it, but they actually rode Tumors for their equestrian team winning the SEC championship. So,
well, hey, and for Auburn folks, a championship's a championship. Does anybody else in the SEC have an equestrian team? Did they have to compete against themselves, or
maybe them in Kentucky? That might have been it.
Yeah. Well, they had to counter that Final Four with something, didn't they, Mike? Baseball team's off to a 1-8 start. Softball team is, the coach is quitting at the end of the season. So, hey, man, you got to hang your hat where you can. And equestrian, they're right. Dominating equestrian.
Yes, sir. Well, I booked my trip to Phoenix yesterday, but I had to break it to my kids. Hey, you're not going to be getting any Christmas this year.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're man enough to do it. I mean, you got, priorities. Listen, Christmas comes every year. But I've been waiting my whole life for a Final Four. They had to understand.
Oh, me too. I've been an Alabama basketball fan since my dad took me to watch Pistol Pete when he came to Tuscaloosa. So I've waited a long time for this, and like many others, I had said if they ever get there, I'm going. I just wish it could have been in Atlanta or Nashville or someplace closer. But,
everybody's thinking the same thing. Logistically, it's been a nightmare, with it being Spokane, Los Angeles, and Glendale, Phoenix area. But who cares? I mean, I know what you're saying. I mean, but it's just if that's what it took to make it to the Final Four, they can play them all out there on the West Coast, right? But no, it would have been so. It would have been a great year for the Final Four to have been in New Orleans or been in Atlanta or been in Nashville or been in Charlotte but it's in Glendale, and you're going. Hey, bottom line is you're going, man, and you set those kids straight. Like I said, Christmas is coming every year. This may not come again.
That's why I told them I'll bring them a shirt from there. So that's what they'll get.
Well, I'm glad you're getting to go. What's your travel plans, Mike? When do you head out?
I fly out Friday. And hopefully, and I come back Tuesday, but I'm hoping Sunday I can find a golf course out there that'll rent some clubs.
Yeah, you will. You will. Just when you get out there, just do the old Google search for golf and club rentals, and you'll get get on a course. There's a lot of them out there, and some of them, some of them won't rent clubs and take on public golfers, but a lot of them will. So you'll find a place.
Let me ask you, Gary, I was thinking, has there been another coach that has benefited more from this Alabama basketball run than Patrick Murphy? Because there is no talk about how disappointing that team is so far this year.
Well, they need to win a series. I'll give you that. They need to win a series, and I'm disappointed too. Now listen, their attitude seems to be positive. Murph is one of the most positive people you're ever going to meet, and watching them play, they're still getting after it. But it's the level of play is not what it's going to need to be. I mean, you can't keep going 1-2 every weekend in the SEC. So we'll see what they're able to do. But you're right. Right now, it is amazing to me being here in town and how this Final Four has just morphed over everything. Nobody's talking about football this week. There's a scrimmage coming up Saturday.
I know it.
Baseball's having a good year. Softball's playing. Gymnastics has got their NCAA championships this week. Up in Ann Arbor, and there's just nobody talking about anything other than basketball. In fact, I had a caller earlier talking about, he said, well, I'm not as quite as our good listener Cowboy out in Dallas. He said, I'm not as quite as hyped as I thought I would be. And I said, well, you're not in this town. Because I said, I promise you, this town is hyped.
Oh, yes. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime. It's an incredible what this team has done. Let me ask you, changing to football, what are your sources telling you how Justice Haynes is performing?
Very well. I think Justice Haynes is going to be a major factor in this run game. I think they're really happy with their whole stable of running backs. Jam Miller, Haynes. I think they feel like they've got Richard Young. I think those offensive coaches are feeling like, yeah, we're fine at running back. So I've heard good things on all of them. In fact, I've heard good things on the offense in general, other than really pass protection with the offensive line. That's an area they've got to shore up. It was a weakness last year, and they need to get better there.
Yeah. Now, are you able to go to the scrimmage this week?
No, we will be allowed to go. There's Coach DeBoer is going to have a press conference afterwards, and and I was kidding earlier. It's probably going to be the least attended head coach press conference in Alabama football history. There won't be many people here, to be honest with you, Mike. But
yeah.
But we won't get to watch any of the scrimmage, but we will get to hear from Coach.
Yeah. Well, last thing, you talked a couple of weeks ago about you love to play basketball as well, and I do as well. But one thing, I know you're a golfer. Once this basketball, I wish we could get like a golf outing up with you, some of the listeners, and because it'd be good to, put a face with a voice.
It would. It really would. In fact, Mike, stay on the line and let Justin get your cell phone number after I move on to Tom, and he'll give it to me. And that's really a great idea. Maybe at some point I could put together a little golf event here in town for the listeners that want to sign up. We could have a little tournament. So stay on the line and let Justin get your cell phone number for me. All right, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, hold on tight. Keep him on the line. All right, we're going to get to Tom here on Tom will play too. Tom, you'll play it. If I get a little golf tournament up for Tide 109 Gary Harris Show listeners, you'll play once.
Oh, absolutely. Y'all don't want this smoke, though. I can tell you that now.
I know you can play. I know. Mike said you're a golfer, and I wanted to say, well, let's not go too far. I play golf. Yeah. I'm not sure anymore that I'm a golfer. I was decent.
Same with me. Don't go too far with that.
As I told you, at one time I was decent. Those days are gone.
Yeah, me too.
Man,
I got hurt.
I play so
I got
little.
An injury, and I just couldn't get over it, and it really hurt my golf game. And then one thing led to another one. I did do well, but yeah, I'd love to meet everybody. That would be fun, even if I do go out there and hit y'all in the leg with a shank.
Well, we might be all hitting some. Like I said, I haven't played now since the fall.
Hey, talking about the press conference after the practice, you'll probably be, if you go to that press conference, that'll be a one-on-one with you and Coach.
There won't be many people there. I think now that I'm not going to Glendale, but I think I'll be there. Fowler will probably be there. A couple of the websites will have people there, but it won't be. In fact, I got to go to the one last week because of the Thursday scrimmage, and after my sportscast, I walked over there, and there wasn't our camera from VUA 23 was the only camera there from a TV station, and there maybe were 15 people total. So, but that's what happens when your basketball team is doing something special, and they are.
Well, I tell you what, I kind of like everything that. Because of the accomplishments of the basketball team, I'm glad that they're getting a lot of attention. Barry said something the last day or two that I really like and agree with. Finally, we're kind of like pulling the curtain back on Bama basketball, historically speaking, to kind of go along with the success we're having this year. And I'm glad of that, too, for all those that came before. So,
well, aren't we all glad that Alabama's 8A game is next weekend? Of course, I guess Auburn had an inkling that they wouldn't make it to the Final Four because their 8A game is this Saturday. So it's not going to be a problem for them. But I'd hate for the 8A game to be falling on the same day that Alabama was playing in the Final Four.
Whoa, don't mention it because, you know what, I hadn't been to an 8A game in a few years, but I really wanted to. To go this year. I'm going to get to go if the weather holds up and see what everything looks like. I'm curious. Are you?
Am I going to the 8A game?
Yeah. Are you curious to see what what they have over a period of time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think it'll be interesting to see, the changes if there are any, and I think there will be. Don't you? I think that the fact that this system that he's bringing in is going to be different than what we've been looking at.
No doubt. I mean,
I think it'll be entertaining too.
I'm very anxious to see it. And again, it's a spring game. They're not going to show you everything, but the thing I think I'm going to watch for on offense is this passing game is more of a timing passing game. It's more getting the ball out of your hands and watching Jalen Milroe and the other quarterbacks too, but particularly Jalen work with these receivers and see if that ball's coming out on time and how confident he looks. And then defensively, even though again, somewhat limited in a scrimmage as far as what they're going to let you do, but I think this defense is going to be really aggressive, and you're going to see guys, coming from different places. You might see, a guy walk up off the corner and boom, he goes. And not that Alabama hasn't corner blitzed in the past, but they've been rare. I think this defense is going to be predicated on we're going to defend, but we're also going to be very offensive in our approach. We're coming for you. We're coming to get after you. Yeah.
I think this defense is a pressure defense.
I do too. I think
that from what I can tell, and I'm no expert, don't get me wrong, but what it looks like to me is they try to push you to a certain, you know what I mean? They try to force you into what they want to defend, not just lay back and defend. I'll tell you something else I heard that I like, and this is what I'm going to look for. I heard Coach Kane say that their technique on playing defensive back is to break on the ball. And ever since Coach Oliver was here, that's the way he taught the defensive back to play. You keep that cushion, and when you think you know where that ball's going, you break and go get that ball.
Yeah, Oliver had a couple of simple rules. That was one, and the other one was, you're absolutely right, you don't let anybody get behind you. That was Bill Oliver's. Right. Tommy Wilcox told me that if you let somebody get behind you, when Bill Oliver was coaching the secondary, you were out of there. He would even tell you if you had to turn and run and sprint toward the goal line to keep somebody from getting behind you. Oliver was one of the best ever.
Well, I want to see that because, Coach, my hat's off to Coach Saban. You know more than I know, but to me, I always wanted to ask him, with the type of athletes you got, with the speed they got, and the coordination that they got on the ball and all that, wouldn't you be more successful in turnovers by playing that style? And then Coach Kane comes out here and says that's what he teaches his defensive backs to play. And I would love to see that back in the arsenal of our defense. How about you?
Well, I think they're going to be aggressive. Yeah, I do. I'm certainly on a knock Coach Saban's system because it led to six national titles and some of the most dominant defenses we've seen in college football. But yeah, this is going to be a different approach. I don't think there's any.
Well, I'm talking about today's game. I think dictates.
It does. It's changed. The game's evolved. Yeah. Listen, I've said this before, and you've heard me say it, Tom. Had they not changed the rules and opened it up, and the RPOs and allowing guys to block downfield and all that trickery, if you were still just lining up with a tight end and two wide receivers and a couple of backs, and running a regular offense and playing 62 plays a game, I'm not sure Nick Saban would have won the national championship every year. So they jazzed up the rules in a great part to try to counter Alabama's dominance. I have no doubt about that, Tom. I have no doubt when they let guys start blocking downfield on pass plays, that changed defensive football, because everything you had ever been taught as a corner or a safety or linebacker was to play with your eyes. And when you saw linemen blocking downfield, boom, everybody hit the line of scrimmage because you weren't allowed to pass the football. It was run. You read run with your eyes, but what happened was you started reading run with your eyes, and you started having safeties and corners come up to play run, and then the quarterback was throwing the football to wide open wide receivers because in essence, it was almost like cheating there for a while until defenses adjusted. But there's no doubt in my mind they put those rule changes in because Alabama was about to. You think they went on a run with Saban the way it was? Had they not changed some rules for those offenses, we'd have never seen anything like it. I'm telling you, they might have won it every year, Tom. Because he would have just overwhelmed. He would have just overwhelmed you with defensive talent.
I'll tell you this too, and you'll agree with this. When I pointed out, the person that benefited most of was Gus Malzahn.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt. That's why you had people saying for a while that Malzahn was going to run Saban out because he had that little tricked up offense before anybody had adjusted to it. And that Iron Bowl in 2013, man, they had guys blocking downfield the whole game. They had guys 4, 5, 6 yards down the line, downfield. And then even on that play where they tied up the game with, I guess it was Sammy Coates, they got behind, who was the good little corner Alabama had? Went on to play in the NFL, great punt returner too, but had to retire due to a medical issue. But, he came up to play run. And then Nick, who was the quarterback for Auburn? Tom, the defensive back, had started at Georgia.
Yeah, Nick Marshall.
Yeah, Nick Marshall. He all of a sudden, he runs down the line, and everybody's playing run, and he just tosses the ball to Coates.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and for a wide-open touchdown to tie the game. There never would have been a kick six had they not tied it up in the first place. But that was, it benefited them. But, Saban, to his credit, he adjusted. He brought Kiffin in here, and he said, we're going to run the same thing everybody else is running. And that's another thing that people don't realize. Everybody says, well, they brought Kiffin in. Yeah, Kiffin learned the spread. He wasn't a spread guy. Kiffin had coached traditional offense in the NFL in Tennessee. They ran, but he learned it. They learned it together, and that's how brilliant Kiffin is as an offensive mind.
Well, let me tell you something. Here it is. Here's the answer to that question. He brought Kiffin in here to say we got to do something different, and the spread is what I'm thinking. So they initiated some spread principles. But let me tell you, the guy that put us on the map running that wide open offense was Brian Daboll from New England. When he come in here and brought that playbook from New England in here, that put us on the way to really getting into spread principles because he understood it better than anybody we ever had, even Sarkisian.
Chiropractic, the only third-generation chiropractor with over 26 years experience in Tuscaloosa. Call Tidwell Chiropractic at 752-2503.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time at the Tuscaloosa Championship Golf Course. Everyone can play. 205-562-3201. Old Colony is operated by Para.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Warm and breezy today, mostly cloudy with thunderstorms arriving this afternoon and tonight. The storms could be strong to severe. The main threat, strong straight line winds. The high today 83, tonight's low 50. Tomorrow gradual clearing and cooler, the high 64. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 75 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
All right, 1054, Who's Q and Brew. 1825 McFarland Boulevard in the Northridge Center in Tuscaloosa. Man, it is an awesome place. 17 TVs for the games this weekend. Your only Buzz Time trivia location in town. Daily lunch specials with your drink and tax included today. It's the smoked chicken breast sandwich with one side and drink, just $10. Got to get by and see them. They've got evening specials on different drinks and dinner specials as well. Live music's available on Monday night, 6 to 8 p.m. Get by and see them at Who's Q and Brew. 1825 McFarland Boulevard in the Northridge Center. All right, we're winding it down. 3 more minutes to go. As I've already said now, I've let the cat out of the bag. I'm not going to Glendale, which I'm very disappointed, but it's the way it goes. But Wyatt Fulton is going out on behalf of Tide to cover the Final Four and that is awesome. Do you know he'll be on in a minute? When's he leaving, Justin? What's his itinerary?
Early Friday morning, he's going to be leaving.
Okay, so you're going to get out there for the weekend. Okay, well, good. It's going to be good to have Tide out there, and I will have someone out there for WVUA 23. Alex Booth is going to be doing some coverage for us, but I won't be, and I'm disappointed. But, hey, we also have a football scrimmage Saturday, so I'll have plenty to do. That is for sure. All right, counting it down. I want to remind people that tonight I'll have your local sports plus Rodney Orr will join me at 6:30 for Tider Insider TV on WVUA 23, and we have a jam-packed Tider Insider TV. Now, be aware that there could be some bad weather tonight, and if that's the case, this evening, Richard Scott always has the right to cut in on Tider Insider TV or the local news or anything. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But hopefully from between 6:30 and 7, everything will be okay. If not, we'll run the show and do the show whenever the weather threat is over. So if we can't come on at 6:30, because that's right in that window when there could be some severe weather, then we'll come on and do it at 8 o'clock if we have to. Or if we have to, we'll do it tomorrow night. But we will definitely do Tider Insider TV. All right, this hour of the Gary Harris Show has been brought to you by my good friends Paul Patterson and Mike Comer at Patterson Comer Attorneys at Law. Again, if you need a personal injury law firm, you need Patterson Comer Law Firm, PattersonComerLawFirm.com.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of services performed by other lawyers.
All right, that's going to do it. We're going to get out of here and make way for T-Town Sports Daily with Wyatt and Justin. And then at noon, it's going to be the Miller's Edge from noon until 2. And then Fowler will take you over the game from 2 until 6. Tomorrow, I'm loaded. I'm going to have Bart Heitz on hoops to talk about the Final Four, Matt Coulter on NASCAR, and Casey Smith on golf. Then Thursday, live from Phoenix, Chris Stewart will join us Thursday morning, voice of the Crimson Tide, to talk about the game. So busy week ahead here on the Gary Harris Show. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll talk to you again in the morning at 9 a.m.